What's up guys, I'm Caden with Crypto Now or Never and welcome back to another Bread on ETH update. If you enjoy this content, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. None of this is financial advice. Let's get into it.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want.
Alright, so we're going to start off with our usual technical analysis update. So if you look at Bitcoin on the daily time frame right now, you could actually argue that we are still holding a double bottom. Now, to be clear, we did close a little bit beneath the previous close. This close right here was 78,342. However, this close was 78,561. So it is a slightly lower low. And we obviously wicked quite a bit beneath this level. However, I have definitely seen double bottoms like this play out in the past. And the only reason we broke support to begin with is because of the macro news that was going on. In case you guys haven't been paying attention, there's been a lot of crazy tariff news. But regarding the tariff news, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on right now. For example, 10 minutes ago, South Korea says it will not fight back against US tariffs and seeks to negotiate a new trade deal. And then 36 minutes ago, President Trump says China wants to make a new deal badly, but they don't know how to get started. You have to understand, once we see these issues publicly resolved, the market could boom. I'm not saying that's guaranteed, but we have seen stuff like that happen in the past. And I want to show you guys the S&P 500 as well because I think it's very important right now. Because the S&P 500 is absolutely going to be correlated to Bitcoin. If we see the S&P continue to get nuked, expect Bitcoin to drop. However, if we see the S&P break out, then Bitcoin probably is going to break out as well. But the main reason I think the S&P is super important is because of the weekly time frame. So over the last 24 hours, we've actually had a very nice bounce. The RSI is not as low as it was. However, it is still extremely oversold right now. And I want to point out that we have not been this oversold since COVID. And what happened after COVID? We had a massive explosion. And then if you continue to go back, we have not been this oversold since 2008. These are historic times right now, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. We are the same oversold right now that we were in COVID and 2008. And clearly we had very strong recoveries after both times. And I want you guys to ask yourself, why would this time be any different? Yes, the tariff news seems super bad right now. I understand that. But as we see the issues resolved, the market could easily start to recover. And again, if the S&P breaks out, then we easily could see Bitcoin break out, and we also could see Ethereum break out. As I'm sure most of you guys know, Ethereum has been getting nuked. And because Ethereum has been getting hit so hard, this is another big reason that I'm actually bullish on Bread on ETH. Bread on ETH is actually performing surprisingly well. If you look at the Bread on ETH chart right now, obviously it had a very strong breakout initially, but then it got sold off hard when the market crashed. But you could argue that Bread on ETH formed a perfect falling wedge, and the falling wedge is actually starting to break out, as they do 68% of the time. Now, obviously, I'm not someone who loves to do technical analysis on low-cap meme coins, because it doesn't always matter. The reality is that low-cap meme coins are going to be heavily driven based on the hype around them. But the fact that Bread on ETH is bouncing is a great sign. And as a lot of you guys know, one of the biggest reasons that I've been bullish on Bread on ETH recently is because of Bread on Base. And to be honest with you guys, Bread on Base has always been one of the biggest reasons that a lot of people haven't been bullish on Bread on ETH. Because it just feels like there's this looming shadow over Bread on ETH. But what I want to point out is that Bread on Base still has not gotten a Coinbase listing. As a lot of you guys know, Coinbase listed Toshi initially. And there were definitely people who were worried, but a lot of people still thought that Bread on Base would get a listing. However, Coinbase has now listed KeyCat and Dog and Me also. And the reality is that the more and more coins that get listed before Bread on Base, the more and more power Bread on Base loses. It was once thought that Bread on Base was almost the untouchable meme coin on Base, but it is all the way down to a $263 million market cap. Now, it is still over a 2.5x larger than anything else, but it is no longer this untouchable meme coin. So there is absolutely a reality where Bread on ETH could continue to gain some traction on Bread on Base. And the fact that we are seeing it bounce with the market is a very good sign. Now, to be clear, am I ever saying that I think Bread on ETH will actually pass Bread on Base? No, I am not. All I'm saying is that as Bread on Base loses power, it starts to create a void in the market. And we see all of the other Boys Club meme coins on Ethereum. So would it be that much of a surprise if we saw Bread on ETH explode? That's a question that you'll have to ask yourself. All of that being said, if you guys are interested in joining a like-minded community and getting into projects super early like Bread on ETH, then I also recommend taking a look at my Discord. At the current moment, I have 3 different tiers. But as a lot of you guys know, we called Bread on ETH extremely early in my Discord. It was found by my boy Manchester. He called it at a 200k market cap. And if you guys had bought when I posted my first buy alert, you could have been up over a 239x. So if this is the kind of community that you wish to be a part of, you can find the link on my YouTube homepage. I'd love to have you guys in here. But that's about all. Let me know down in the comments whether or not you guys are still bullish on Bread on ETH. If you found this content valuable, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day.